The first thing Alessandro Vieri noticed was the silence. His fiancée's house was never silent. Not because she was loud. Elena Moretti had never been the type of woman who filled rooms with unnecessary words. She was elegant, controlled, and painfully careful with every emotion she showed. But there was always something. The soft footsteps of her assistants. The sound of classical music drifting from the living room. The laughter of guests she invited to maintain the perfect image of a woman about to marry one of the most feared men in the city. Tonight there was nothing. No lights. No servants. No security guards standing at the entrance. Just darkness. And Alessandro Vieri hated surprises. Especially when they involved the woman who was supposed to become his wife in exactly 9 days. For 15 years, Alessandro had built an empire that survived betrayals, rival families, police investigations, and enemies who believed his downfall was inevitable. People called him ruthless. Called a man without weakness. They were wrong. Because Alessandro Vieri had one weakness. He trusted very few people. And Elena Moretti was one of them. Or at least she had been. Before tonight. Before he stood outside her mansion at midnight, staring at a house that felt less like a future home and more like a crime scene waiting to reveal itself. If you enjoy stories about powerful men, unexpected betrayals, and hidden loyalty, make sure you subscribe to the channel now, because this story will take you through a world where one secret can destroy an empire and one person can change everything. Now, let me ask you something. If the person you trusted most suddenly disappeared before your wedding, would you investigate the truth yourself, or would you walk away forever? Tell me your answer in the comments. I want to know what you would do. Because Alessandro Vieri was about to make a choice that would change his entire life. He stepped out of the black Mercedes. The rain had started falling 10 minutes earlier, turning the driveway into a mirror of broken lights and shadows. His driver, Marco, immediately opened an umbrella. "Boss, are you sure this is a good idea?" Alessandro didn't answer. He stared at the mansion. 3 floors of expensive marble, imported stone, and carefully designed perfection. The perfect home for the perfect bride. That was what everyone believed. But Alessandro had learned something during his years in power. The most beautiful things often hid the ugliest secrets. She didn't answer 6 calls, Marco continued carefully. 7, Alessandro corrected. Marco looked down at the phone in his hand. 7. That was unusual. Elena always answered. Even during meetings. Even during family dinners. Even when she was angry. Especially when she was angry. She would never ignore him. That was one of the reasons he respected her. She was not afraid of him. Everyone else measured their words around Alessandro Vieri. Politicians. Business owners. Enemies. Even members of his own organization. But Elena? She looked him in the eyes and told him when he was wrong. For months earlier, she had walked into his office while 3 armed men were discussing territory disputes and calmly told him, "You are making decisions based on anger instead of strategy." The room had gone completely silent. Nobody spoke to Alessandro like that. Nobody survived disrespecting him. But Alessandro had simply looked at her and smiled. Because she was right. That was Elena. Intelligent. Fearless. Different. The woman who made the most dangerous man in the city feel human. Or so he thought. He walked toward the front door. The security cameras were pointed away from the entrance. Alessandro stopped. His eyes narrowed. That was wrong. Very wrong. Elena's security system was one of the most advanced private systems in the city. Every camera had a perfect angle. Every entrance was monitored. Every movement was recorded. Unless someone changed it. Marco. Yes, boss? Call the security team. Marco immediately reached for his phone. Alessandro touched the door handle. It was unlocked. His expression changed. Elena never left her doors unlocked. Not because she was paranoid. Because she had spent years surrounded by powerful families who understood one thing. A locked door was sometimes the only thing separating safety from disaster. He pushed the door open. The smell hit him first. Not blood. Not smoke. Something worse. Fear. A house had a feeling. People laughed in houses. People cried in houses. People made memories in houses. But this place felt abandoned. Like everyone had left in a hurry. The massive chandelier above the entrance flickered. The expensive furniture remained untouched. A glass of wine sat on the table. Half full. Still fresh. Alessandro slowly stepped inside. Elena. No answer. He moved deeper into the house. Elena, it's me. Still nothing. Then he noticed something. The wedding photographs. They were gone. The large portraits showing them together had been removed from the walls. Not moved. Removed. The empty spaces remained. Like someone wanted to erase the evidence that they ever existed. Alessandro felt something cold settle inside his chest. He walked toward the staircase. The entire second floor was dark. Then he heard it. A sound. A small sound. Coming from upstairs. A woman crying. Alessandro froze. Because he knew that voice. Elena. For the first time in years, fear entered Alessandro Vieri's mind. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. He moved quickly up the stairs. Every instinct he had developed as a mafia boss screamed that something was wrong. The hallway was empty. The bedroom door was slightly open. He reached for his gun. Slowly. Quietly. The man who had faced entire armies without hesitation now stood outside one door, afraid of what he might find. He pushed it open. And what he saw made him forget how to breathe. Elena was sitting on the floor. Her wedding dress was lying beside her. The same dress that had cost more than most people's yearly salary. But it was torn. Her carefully styled hair was undone. Her face was covered with tears. And in front of her was a suitcase. Ready to leave. Alessandro lowered his weapon. Elena! She looked up. And the expression on her face destroyed something inside him. Not fear. Not sadness. Guilt. Like she had already accepted that he would hate her. Alessandro, she whispered. His voice became dangerously calm. Who did this? She shook her head. Nobody. That answer made him angry. Because he knew her. Elena Moretti could survive pain. She could survive threats. But she could never lie well. Look at me, he said. She didn't. Elena. Slowly she raised her eyes. And then Alessandro noticed something. Her hands. They were shaking. Not from fear. From exhaustion. Like she had been fighting alone for days. What happened here? For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she whispered the words that would destroy everything Alessandro believed about his upcoming marriage. Your wedding is a trap. The room went completely silent. Alessandro stared at her. What did you say? Elena looked away. The marriage between our families was never supposed to unite us. Her voice cracked. It was supposed to destroy you. And at that moment, Alessandro Vieri realized something terrifying. The woman he was about to marry was not hiding a betrayal. She was hiding the truth. And the truth was much worse. Alessandro Vieri did not move. For a man who had built his reputation on making decisions within seconds, he stood completely still. Because sometimes the most dangerous moments were not when someone pointed a weapon at you. Sometimes the most dangerous moments were when someone you trusted finally revealed that your entire reality had been a lie. Explain. One word. Quiet. Controlled. But Elena knew Alessandro well enough to hear the storm underneath it. She had seen him negotiate million-dollar deals with that same voice. She had watched powerful men become nervous when he spoke calmly. Because Alessandro Vieri was never more dangerous than when he stopped showing emotion. Elena swallowed. Closed the door. His eyes narrowed. Why? Because if anyone outside hears what I'm about to tell you, you won't make it to sunrise. That sentence changed everything. Alessandro slowly turned and closed the bedroom door. Not because he was afraid. Because Elena was afraid. And that mattered. He looked back at her. Start talking. Elena looked down at the wedding dress beside her. The dress that was supposed to represent a new beginning. Instead, it looked like a goodbye. Your father didn't arrange this marriage because he wanted peace between the Vieri and Moretti families. Alessandro's expression hardened. My father has been dead for 6 years. His name still controls people. The room became colder. Alessandro walked closer. My father died protecting this family. Elena looked at him. No, Alessandro. Her voice was barely above a whisper. He died because someone betrayed him. The words landed like a bullet. For years, Alessandro had believed his father's death was the result of a failed negotiation with a rival organization. A tragic mistake. An unavoidable loss. That was the story he was given. The story everyone repeated. But Elena was telling him something different. Something impossible. Be careful, Alessandro said. Not a threat. A warning. Because accusing his father's closest allies of betrayal was not something anyone did lightly. I know what I'm saying. Then tell me who. Elena hesitated. And that hesitation told Alessandro everything. Because she wasn't afraid of the name. She was afraid of what he would do after hearing it. Your uncle. The silence afterward was deafening. Alessandro stared at her. His uncle. The man who raised him after his father's death. The man who taught him how to run the family business. The man who stood beside him during every major decision. The man who called him son. No. Elena's eyes filled with sadness. I knew you would say that. Because it's impossible. Is it? Alessandro's jaw tightened. You expect me to believe my uncle spent years pretending to love me while planning my destruction? No. She looked directly at him. I expect you to believe he spent years pretending to protect you while slowly taking everything from you. That was different. And somehow worse. Alessandro walked toward the window. The rain hit the glass harder. What proof do you have? Elena didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached toward the suitcase. She pulled out a small black folder. And placed it on the floor between them. I found this 3 weeks ago. Alessandro looked at the folder. What is it? Bank transfers. He didn't move. From where? Your family's offshore accounts. His eyes shifted. And? They were not going where you thought. A dangerous silence filled the room. Alessandro finally picked up the folder. He opened it. The first page was enough. His expression changed. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just enough for Elena to know. He understood. The money wasn't missing. It wasn't stolen. It was being moved. Slowly. Carefully. Hidden from him. Millions of dollars transferred through companies that didn't officially exist. Companies connected to one name. Ready? Alessandro looked up. My family. Elena shook her head. Not mine. She pointed at the documents. Someone is using my family's companies to hide your uncle's movements. The pieces began falling together. The wedding. The alliance. The business merger. Everything. Alessandro had believed he was strengthening his empire. But someone had been building a cage around him. He turned another page. Then another. His breathing became slower. More controlled. That was how Elena knew he was angry. When Alessandro was furious, he never shouted. He became silent. What were you going to do? The question surprised her. What? When you found this? Elena looked away. I was going to leave. Without telling me? She remained quiet. And that answer hurt more than he expected. You were going to disappear. I was trying to protect you. You thought leaving would protect me? Her eyes softened. Yes. For the first time that night, Alessandro looked genuinely hurt. Not angry. Not betrayed. After everything? Elena looked confused. What do you mean? After everything we built. She lowered her eyes. You don't understand. Then make me understand. Her hands tightened. Because I know men like you, Alessandro. His expression changed. Men like me? Powerful men. She took a shaky breath. Men who believe they can fix everything by destroying whatever stands in their way. The words were harsh. But they were honest. And honesty was something Alessandro had always valued. Even when it hurt. You thought I would start a war. Elena didn't answer. She didn't have to. Because she was right. If Alessandro believed his uncle betrayed him, there would be consequences. Massive ones. People would lose everything. Families would fall. Cities would change. That was the world he lived in. A world where betrayal had a price. You should have told me. I couldn't. Why? Elena looked at him. And then Alessandro noticed something he hadn't seen before. A bruise near her wrist. Almost hidden. But there. His eyes immediately focused on it. Who did that? Elena pulled her sleeve down. Nobody. His face darkened. Don't lie to me. It's not important. He stepped closer. Everything about you is important. The words surprised both of them. For years, they had been engaged. But their relationship had always been complicated. A partnership. An agreement. Two powerful families joining forces. But standing there, seeing her broken and exhausted, Alessandro realized something. He had spent months preparing for a wedding. But he had never asked the most important question. Was Elena okay? What happened to your wrist? She stayed silent. And that silence was the answer. Alessandro's voice dropped. Elena. Finally, she whispered. They came here. Who? The people who wanted me to stay quiet. His entire body went still. Who came here? I don't know. You don't know. They covered their faces. His hands slowly closed into fists. When? 2 nights ago. 2 nights. The same night she stopped answering. The same night she disappeared. Why didn't you call me? She laughed softly. A painful laugh. Because they told me something. What? Elena looked at him. They said if I contacted you, they would stop trying to scare me. The pause. They would start hurting the people around you. Alessandro's eyes turned cold. Who did they threaten? Elena looked toward the window. And the answer made his stomach tighten. Your mother. The room went silent. Alessandro's mother. The one person he had spent his entire life protecting. The one person who remained after his father's death. Someone had used her as leverage. That was not just betrayal. That was war. Suddenly, Alessandro's phone vibrated. Both of them looked down. A known number. A message. Alessandro opened it. 1 sentence. And his entire expression changed. Because whoever sent it knew exactly where he was. The message said, Congratulations on finding your bride's little secret. Now ask her why she was really investigating your family. Alessandro slowly raised his eyes toward Elena. For the first time that night, suspicion entered his face. Not because he believed the message, but because someone wanted him to doubt her. And that meant one thing. Someone was watching. Someone was inside his world. Someone close. Elena saw the change in his expression. Alessandro. He looked at her. Who else knows about this? She hesitated. And then she said the one name he wasn't prepared to hear. The person who helped me find the evidence. Who? Elena's face turned pale. Your best friend. Alessandro froze. Because there was only one person in his life who knew everything. The man who stood beside him through every battle. The man who had access to every secret. The man he trusted more than anyone. His right hand. Matteo Romano. Alessandro looked toward the bedroom door. And suddenly, the quiet mansion didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied. But dangerous. He reached inside his jacket. Not for his weapon. For his phone. He called Matteo. The line rang. Twice. 3 times. Then someone answered. But it wasn't Matteo. It was a woman's voice. Alessandro. His face changed. Because he knew that voice. And he knew exactly what it meant. The woman on the other end whispered, You need to run. The call ended. And at that moment, Alessandro Vieri understood something. The wedding wasn't being cancelled because of Elena. The wedding was being cancelled because someone had been planning his funeral. And his fiancée was the only person who tried to save him. If you are still watching this story, comment below. Do you think Alessandro should trust Elena completely, or should he investigate her too before making his next move? Because from this moment forward, the real war begins. Alessandro Vieri stared at the phone screen long after the call ended. The room was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that comes before something breaks. Elena watched him carefully. She knew that look. Everyone in Alessandro's world knew that look. It was the expression of a man who had just discovered an enemy. But this time was different. Because the enemy wasn't standing across from him. The enemy was somewhere inside his own house. Inside his own bloodline. Inside the circle of people he trusted. Who was it? Elena asked quietly. Alessandro didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the phone. The number was gone. Deleted. No trace. No way to call back. A professional move. Someone who understood how to disappear. Finally he spoke. That was my mother's private number. Elena's face changed. What? My mother's number. The color drained from Elena's face. Alessandro. He raised his hand. Not to silence her. To stop himself from losing control. Because one thing had become clear. Someone was not just threatening him. Someone was manipulating him. They wanted him angry. They wanted him reckless. And Alessandro Vieri knew something about war. The first person to lose control was usually the first person to lose everything. He walked toward the bedroom door. Where are you going? To find my mother. Elena tried to stand. Immediately, pain crossed her face. Alessandro noticed. And for a brief moment, the ruthless Mafia boss disappeared. The man standing there was simply a man worried about the woman he loved. Don't move. I'm coming with you. No. The answer was immediate. Elena looked surprised. You don't get to decide that. A faint expression crossed his face. Even now. Even after everything. She was still Elena. The only person in the world who would argue with him while sitting on the floor in a torn wedding dress. Normally that would have amused him. Tonight, it terrified him. Someone broke into your house. I know. Someone hurt you. I know. Someone is using you to reach me. I know that too. She looked directly at him. But if I stay here alone, I become a target. Alessandro went quiet. Because she was right. That was the problem with Elena. She wasn't just brave. She was intelligent. And intelligence was more dangerous than courage. Courage made people run toward danger. Intelligence helped them survive it. He walked back toward her. Slowly. You should have trusted me. Elena looked away. I wanted to. That answer hit harder than he expected. You wanted to? She swallowed. I have watched what happens when people betray you. Her voice became softer. People disappear. Alessandro's expression hardened. Are you afraid of me? The question surprised her. No. Then what? She looked at him. I'm afraid of what happens when someone hurts you. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Because that was the truth. Elena wasn't afraid Alessandro would hurt her. She was afraid he would destroy himself. And somehow that was worse. Before Alessandro could respond, a sound came from downstairs. A door opening. Both of them froze. His hand immediately moved toward his weapon. Elena whispered, You didn't call your security? No. Why? Because I don't know who I can trust. That sentence changed the atmosphere completely. The most powerful man in the city had just admitted something terrifying. He was alone. Not physically, but strategically. Someone had infiltrated his life so deeply that even his own protection team was questionable. The footsteps moved closer. Slow. Confident. Whoever was downstairs wasn't trying to hide. They wanted them to know they were there. Alessandro positioned himself between Elena and the door. The old instinct returned. Protect. Elena noticed. Even after everything. Even after discovering she had hidden secrets. He still protected her first. The bedroom door handle moved. Alessandro raised his weapon. The door opened. And standing there was someone neither of them expected. Put the gun down. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. Because the person standing there wasn't an enemy. It was his mother. Lucia Vieri. Alive. Unharmed. But terrified. Behind her stood 3 armed guards. Alessandro lowered his weapon slightly. Mother. Lucia looked past him. Her eyes landed on Elena. Then back at Alessandro. You know. It wasn't a question. Alessandro stared. You knew. Lucia stepped into the room. The guards closed the door behind her. I knew someone was trying to destroy this family. Her voice shook. But I didn't know how far they had gone. Alessandro's anger returned. Why didn't you tell me? Lucia looked down. Because your father made me promise. The room froze. My father. He knew. Alessandro felt the air leave his lungs. Explain. Lucia sat down slowly. The woman who had always appeared strong suddenly looked old. Tired. Like she had carried a secret for years. Your father knew your uncle was ambitious. Alessandro clenched his jaw. Then why keep him close? Because your father believed keeping enemies close was safer than pushing them into the darkness. Elena shook her head. That was a mistake. Lucia looked at her. You know. Elena nodded. Your husband made the same mistake many powerful men make. Which is? They believe loyalty can be forced. A painful silence followed. Because everyone in the room knew she was right. Alessandro looked at his mother. What exactly did my father know? Lucia reached into her handbag. She removed a small envelope. Like it had been hidden for years. I was supposed to give this to you when you were ready. Alessandro took it. Ready for what? Lucia looked at him. To know who really killed your father. The room went completely still. Alessandro opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph. A single photograph. His father. His uncle. And another man. A man Alessandro recognized immediately. His heart stopped. Because the third person in the picture was someone impossible. Someone who should never have been there. Someone who had attended his father's funeral. Someone who had cried beside his family. Someone who had spent years pretending to help him rebuild. The man who knew every weakness. Every secret. Every plan. The man who had helped him rise. The man who might have helped destroy him. Lucia spoke softly. Your father discovered Matteo was working with your uncle. Alessandro looked up. No. The word came out automatically. Because accepting his uncle's betrayal was painful. But Matteo? Impossible. Lucia continued. He was going to expose them. And? She looked away. That night your father died. The room became silent. Alessandro looked down at the photograph. For years, he thought his father left him a kingdom. Now he wondered if he had inherited a battlefield. A vibration interrupted the silence. His phone. Another message. A known number. This time, there was a photo attached. Alessandro opened it, and his blood ran cold. It was a picture of Matteo, standing outside his mansion. Taken moments ago. The message below said, you should have married Elena. She was the only person trying to save you. A second message appeared. Now choose carefully. Your friend is coming inside. Everyone looked toward the door. Then came the sound. 3 knocks. Confident. Familiar. Tail. Alessandro stared at the door. The man he trusted most was standing on the other side. And now he had to decide something. Was Matteo coming to explain? Or was he coming to finish the job? Alessandro looked at Elena. For the first time since entering the house, she saw something in his eyes. Not anger. Not fear. Because betrayal from an enemy was expected. But betrayal from a brother destroyed something deeper. Alessandro walked toward the door. Elena grabbed his hand. Don't. He looked back. Why? Because if he's here, he wants you angry. The pause. And angry people make mistakes. Alessandro looked at her. Then slowly nodded. Because once again, she was right. He turned toward the door. Stay behind me. Elena gave a weak smile. You really think I'm going to listen? For the first time that night, Alessandro almost smiled. Almost. Then he opened the door. And faced the man who might have destroyed his entire life. Elena saw the expression on his face. Who is that? Alessandro didn't answer. Because saying the name out loud made it real. Finally, he whispered, Matteo. His best friend. His brother by choice. The words hung in the room like a final judgment. The wedding is cancelled. Nobody spoke. Not Elena. Not Matteo. Not even Lucia. Because everyone understood what those words meant. For Alessandro Vieri, a wedding was never just a wedding. It was a political alliance. A business agreement. A promise between powerful families. Hundreds of people had been preparing for months. Millions had been invested. The entire city had been waiting for the event that would unite two of the most influential families. And Alessandro had just destroyed it with 4 words. Elena stared at him. Not angry. Not surprised. Just hurt. Because somewhere deep inside she had expected this. She had known the truth would eventually come out. She had known Alessandro would feel betrayed. But knowing something was coming did not make it hurt less when it arrived. Alessandro. He looked at her. And that was almost worse. Because his eyes were no longer filled with anger. They were filled with questions. How long? Elena swallowed. What? How long were you investigating me? The question was quiet. But it carried years of trust behind it. 3 months. His expression barely changed. But Elena noticed. A tiny movement. A tightening of his jaw. 3 months. 90 days of conversations. 90 days of pretending everything was normal. And during those 3 months? She looked down. I was supposed to gather information. About me. Yes. What kind of information? She hesitated. And that hesitation hurt him more than the answer. My family's business. Alessandro looked away. The man who had survived betrayal from enemies was struggling with betrayal from someone who slept in his arms. Or at least almost did. Their relationship had always been complicated. They had been engaged for 8 months. But unlike other couples, there had never been a simple beginning. No ordinary dates. No normal romance. Their first meeting was at a negotiation table. Their first conversation was about territory. Their first disagreement was about money. Their relationship was born in a world where everyone had an agenda. But somewhere along the way, something changed. At least for him. You should have told me. Elena whispered. I tried. When? Several times. Alessandro laughed quietly. Not because it was funny. Because it was painful. When? When I realized my father was wrong. And when was that? When I fell in love with you. The room became silent. Even Matteo looked away. Because that confession wasn't planned. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't a manipulation. It was simply the truth. Alessandro stared at her. For years, men and women had lied to him. They lied because they wanted power, money, protection. But Elena? She had just admitted something that could destroy her. And she still said it. I fell in love with you before I knew how to stop. Her voice shook. And that's why I couldn't tell you. Alessandro looked down. Because that was the part he didn't know how to handle. If she was his enemy, he knew what to do. If she was a traitor, he knew what to do. But if she was someone who made a mistake while trying to protect him? That was different. And Alessandro Vieri hated situations where there was no clear answer. Matteo broke the silence. This is exactly what they wanted. Everyone looked at him. What? Matteo stepped forward. They wanted you divided. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. You don't get to explain betrayal to me. I know. No, you don't. His voice hardened. You stood beside me for years. Matteo nodded. And I failed you. That admission surprised Alessandro. Because Matteo was not a man who apologized. I should have told you everything. Yes. I should have exposed your uncle years ago. Yes. I should have protected your father. The room became silent. Alessandro looked at him. What happened that night? Matteo looked away. For the first time, the confident man seemed broken. Your father found out about the plan. What plan? Your removal. Alessandro's eyes darkened. Explain. Matteo took a slow breath. Your uncle knew he couldn't control your father. So he waited. For what? For you. Elena looked confused. Matteo continued. He knew your father would never allow him to take control while you were alive. The sentence was brutal. But if your father died, and you inherited the empire while still young, your uncle could guide you. Alessandro's hands tightened. He wanted to control me. Yes. Lucia closed her eyes. Because hearing it confirmed what she feared. Matteo continued. But your father discovered everything. And you. Matteo looked at Alessandro. I discovered it too late. The room was quiet. I arrived at the meeting place when it was already happening. Alessandro stared. Who killed him? Matteo didn't answer. That silence was enough. But Alessandro needed to hear it. Who? Finally, Matteo whispered. Your uncle's men. A cold feeling moved through Alessandro. All these years. All the memories. All the advice. All the trust. Built on a lie. He turned away. The room felt smaller. His entire life had been rewritten in one night. Then his phone rang. Everyone looked at it. The screen showed one name. Uncle Vincent. Alessandro stared. The man responsible for everything was calling him. Matteo looked at him. Don't answer. Alessandro ignored him. He pressed accept. Hello, uncle. The voice on the other end sounded calm. Almost cheerful. Alessandro. The older man's voice carried confidence. I heard there was a problem with the wedding. Alessandro said nothing. I also heard Elena has been filling your head with stories. Elena's expression changed. Vincent continued. Son, listen to me carefully. People around you are trying to manipulate you. Alessandro looked at Matteo. Then Elena. Is that what you think? I know it. The pause. Come home. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. What? We need to talk. You mean you need to explain why you tried to destroy me? Silence. A very short silence. But enough. Because Vincent reacted. Not with confusion. Not with shock. With calculation. And Alessandro heard it. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Those words confirmed everything. Alessandro smiled coldly. You're right. The pause. I don't. His voice dropped. But I'm about to. Vincent became quieter. Alessandro. No. He interrupted. For years, you believed you were controlling the board. He looked at Elena. Then Matteo. But you forgot something. What? Alessandro's expression became dangerous. The person who controls the board is the person who knows the truth. He ended the call. Nobody spoke. Then Elena noticed something. Something outside. A reflection. A shadow moving near the window. Her face changed. Alessandro turned. What? She pointed. Someone is here. Immediately, every instinct returned. The lights went out. The entire mansion fell into darkness. Then came the sound. Glass breaking downstairs. Lucia's guards reached for their weapons. Matteo moved toward the hallway. Alessandro grabbed Elena's hand. Stay close. She looked at him. You're still protecting me? He looked at her. That was never the question. Before she could respond, a gunshot echoed through the house. Everyone froze. Because the shot did not come from outside. It came from inside. And Alessandro realized something terrifying. The enemy wasn't attacking the mansion. The enemy was already inside. The sound of the gunshot echoed through the mansion. Then came silence. Not peaceful silence. The kind of silence that happens when everyone is waiting to see who falls. Alessandro Vieri did not move. His hand remained locked around Elena's. His eyes scanned the darkness. A lifetime of survival instincts took over. Count exits. Identify threats. Protect the people who matter. But this time, something was different. The threat was not outside. It was already inside his home. Nobody moves, Alessandro said quietly. His voice cut through the darkness. The guards immediately stopped. Even Lucia's personal security team, men who had worked for the Vieri family for years, obeyed without hesitation. Because everyone knew one thing. When Alessandro Vieri spoke calmly, it was time to listen. Marco, he called. No answer. His expression changed. Marco was his driver. His oldest security officer. A man who had never failed to answer. Marco. Still nothing. Elena felt Alessandro's grip tighten. He's not here. Alessandro looked at her. What? She whispered. The person who fired that shot knew exactly where everyone would be. Her eyes moved toward the hallway. They knew the security pattern. That was the most disturbing part. Because an outsider could attack. But only someone close could predict. Matteo moved forward. Stay here. Alessandro looked at him. A cold smile appeared. Interesting. What? 20 minutes ago, I wasn't sure if I could trust you. Matteo stared. And now? Now I know someone else wants me dead. The answer was not forgiveness. But it was enough. For the moment. Matteo nodded. Then we find them. The group moved carefully through the mansion. The luxury around them suddenly felt different. The expensive paintings. The marble floors. The imported furniture. Everything that once represented success now felt like a hiding place. Because Alessandro understood something. A fortress was useless if the enemy already had a key. They reached the first floor. The lights flickered back on. And everyone stopped. A man was lying near the entrance. One of Lucia's guards. Alive. Barely conscious. Alessandro rushed toward him. Who did this? The guard struggled to speak. Boss. Who? The man's eyes moved toward the staircase. Not outside. The pause. Inside. Then he lost consciousness. Alessandro stood. His face became unreadable. Elena looked at him. Someone wanted you to know they could reach you. He nodded. Yes. And they succeeded. No. She looked confused. Alessandro looked around the mansion. They wanted me afraid. The pause. They forgot something. What? His eyes turned cold. I don't make decisions when I'm afraid. He walked toward the security room. Matteo followed. You think someone tampered with the cameras? I know they did. Inside the security room, the monitors were black. Every screen showed the same message. Access denied. Matteo stared. Someone hacked the system. Alessandro examined the screen. No. Matteo looked at him. No. They didn't hack it. He pointed. They used my access code. The room went silent. Because only 3 people had Alessandro's master security access. Alessandro, Lucia, and Matteo. Matteo slowly looked at him. You think it was me? Alessandro didn't answer. And that was answer enough. Matteo looked hurt. Not angry. Hurt. After everything? Alessandro's expression remained controlled. After everything, I know exactly why I can't assume anything. Before Matteo could respond, Elena spoke. Wait. Everyone looked at her. She stepped closer to the monitor. Show me the access log. Alessandro looked at her. You can read this system? No. She pointed. But I know this pattern. The screen showed several lines of activity. Whoever entered used your code. She paused. But they didn't use your device. Matteo frowned. What does that mean? It means they copied his access. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. Impossible. No. Elena shook her head. Not impossible. She looked at him. Just expensive. A cold feeling moved through the room. Because now they knew. Someone had planned this. Someone had studied Alessandro. Someone had prepared for years. The question was, who had enough access? Enough money? Enough patience? Then another sound came. A phone ringing. Everyone looked around. It wasn't Alessandro's. It wasn't Matteo's. It wasn't Lucia's. It was coming from the security desk. An old landline. A phone nobody used. Alessandro slowly picked it up. Hello. A distorted voice answered. Congratulations. Alessandro's expression hardened. Who is this? You finally started asking questions. The voice was disguised. You spent years believing you were the strongest man in the room. The pause. But you were only the most useful. Alessandro said nothing. The voice continued. Do you know why your wedding was scheduled for 9 days from now? Who are you? Because after the ceremony, your entire organization would legally transfer ownership. Everyone froze. Elena's eyes widened. What? The voice laughed softly. The Moretti family agreement. Alessandro looked at Elena. What agreement? She looked confused. I don't know what he's talking about. The voice continued. Your marriage wasn't a merger. The pause. It was a takeover. Alessandro's expression darkened. Explain. The Vieri Empire was created through your father's name. Another pause. But your uncle made sure every legal weakness remained. Alessandro listened carefully. Your wedding would have given the Moretti family control over those weaknesses. Elena shook her head. No. The voice ignored her. By the time you discovered the truth, Alessandro, your entire empire would belong to someone else. The line went silent. Then one final sentence. The woman you were about to marry was supposed to become the person who inherited your destruction. Alessandro slowly lowered the phone. Everyone looked at Elena. The accusation hung in the air. Even though Alessandro didn't believe it, even though part of him knew there was more, the damage had been done. Because now there was another question. If Elena had originally been sent to investigate him, was she also supposed to take everything from him? Elena looked at Alessandro. And for the first time he saw real fear in her eyes. Not fear of death. Fear of losing him. I didn't know. Her voice broke. I swear to you, Alessandro. I didn't know. He stared at her. The woman he loved. The woman who had lied. The woman who had saved him. All at once. And then something happened. Something nobody expected. The security monitors turned back on. A video began playing automatically. A recording. A man appeared on the screen. Alessandro recognized him immediately. His father. Dead for 6 years. Everyone froze. Because the recording was impossible. His father's voice filled the room. If you are watching this, Alessandro. The pause. Then they have already tried to use Elena. Alessandro stopped breathing. The video continued. Listen carefully. His father's face remained serious. The person you should fear is not the woman beside you. The screen flickered. And it is not the man you call your brother. The pause. It is the person who taught you to trust them. Alessandro's eyes widened. Because his father knew. He knew everything. The recording ended with one final message. Alessandro, if you want to survive. The screen went black. Find the person who arranged your wedding. Nobody moved. Because suddenly the biggest mystery was no longer Elena. It was the wedding itself. Who planned it? Who benefited? And why did Alessandro's dead father seem to know it was coming? Outside, thunder shook the mansion. Inside, Alessandro Vieri finally understood. The wedding he was about to celebrate was never meant to unite two families. It was designed to bury him. If you are enjoying this story, subscribe to the channel because the next part uncovers the secret hidden in Alessandro's father's final message and reveals the person who truly designed the wedding trap. The room remained frozen after the recording ended. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Because sometimes the truth did not arrive like an explosion. Sometimes it arrived like a whisper. And somehow, that was more terrifying. Alessandro Vieri stared at the blank security monitor. His father's face was gone. But his voice remained. 6 years. 6 years of believing he understood what happened. 6 years of building an empire on top of a story that might have been carefully constructed. He had spent his entire adult life searching for enemies outside his walls. Rivals. Competing families. Business threats. But his father had just told him the truth. The greatest threat was someone he trusted. Someone who helped him. Someone who guided him. Alessandro slowly turned around. His eyes moved across the room. Lucia. Teo. Elena. 3 people. 3 different secrets. And suddenly he realized something. Everyone around him had known something he didn't. That was the part that hurt the most. Not the betrayal. Not the danger. The fact that he had been the last person to discover the truth about his own life. Who recorded that? His voice was quiet. Lucia looked down. I don't know. Alessandro looked at her. Mother. She closed her eyes. I swear I don't know. He believed her. But that didn't mean he was satisfied. How did it activate? Matteo moved toward the security system. Someone planted it. Recently? No. Matteo examined the system. Years ago. That answer made everyone uncomfortable. Years. Someone had prepared for this moment years ago. Someone knew Alessandro would eventually discover the truth. Someone had been waiting. Elena looked at the screen. Your father wanted you to see this. Alessandro looked at her. Why? Because he knew you wouldn't believe anyone else. That sentence hit him. Because it was true. Alessandro trusted evidence. Facts. Proof. Not emotions. His father knew him better than anyone. He left a message. Matteo looked at him. What? Alessandro pointed toward the screen. He didn't say survive. The pause. He said find the person who arranged the wedding. Everyone became silent. Because now the wedding was the center of everything. Not Elena. Not the betrayal. The wedding. The alliance. The contract. The event that was supposed to change everything. Alessandro looked at Elena. When did your family first propose this marriage? She hesitated. 8 months ago. Who proposed it? My father. And before that? She frowned. What do you mean? Who contacted your father? Elena looked confused. I don't know. Alessandro turned to Matteo. Find out. Matteo nodded. Then stopped. Alessandro. What? There's something else. The room changed. What? Matteo looked uncomfortable. And Alessandro immediately noticed. Because Matteo was many things. A liar. A strategist. A survivor. But uncomfortable? That was rare. Say it. Matteo took a breath. The wedding planner. Everyone stared. The wedding planner? Matteo nodded. She wasn't hired by the Moretti family. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. Then who hired her? Matteo looked at him. Your uncle. Silence. Another piece. Another connection. Alessandro closed his eyes briefly. His uncle. The man behind the money. The man behind the betrayal. The man who wanted control. But why involve the wedding? Why create such an elaborate plan? Why not simply attack? The answer came from Elena. Because he needed everyone to believe you were safe. Everyone looked at her. She continued. A direct attack would have made you suspicious. She walked slowly toward the table. But a wedding? She looked at the documents. A wedding makes people lower their guard. Alessandro listened. Everyone would be focused on celebration. Security would change. Your attention would be divided. She looked at him. You weren't going to die before the wedding. The pause. You were going to lose everything after it. The logic was terrifying. Because it made sense. Alessandro had spent months preparing for a new alliance. He had moved resources. Changed security. Opened financial records. Trusted people he normally wouldn't. The wedding had forced him to expose himself. Then Elena noticed something. A small detail. A detail everyone else missed. The guest list. Alessandro looked at her. What about it? The final guest list. She walked toward the desk. Who approved it? Me. No. She shook her head. You approved the people you invited. She picked up a document. But not the final security list. Matteo's expression changed. What are you saying? The wedding wasn't only bringing guests. Her finger moved down the page. It was bringing access. Alessandro took the document. The list contained names. Families. Business partners. Security personnel. Then he saw it. One name. A name that should not have been there. His eyes narrowed. Impossible. Elena looked at him. What? He pointed. This person died. Matteo moved closer. Then his face changed. Because Alessandro was right. The person listed as a security consultant had died 4 years ago. Yet someone had approved his access. Someone had given him permission to enter the wedding. Someone had given a dead man a key to Alessandro's future. Find him. Alessandro's voice became cold. Matteo looked at him. He's dead. I know. Then how? Alessandro stared at the name. Someone is using his identity. The pause. And whoever it is, he looked around the room, has access to everything. Before anyone could respond, Lucia's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Her face immediately changed. Alessandro noticed. Who? She didn't answer. Mother. Slowly, she handed him the phone. The caller ID appeared. Unknown. Alessandro answered. Who is this? A familiar voice responded. A voice he had heard his entire life. A voice that made Lucia immediately sit down. Because it belonged to someone who should not be alive. Alessandro. His blood turned cold. The voice continued. You finally discovered the wedding wasn't your idea. Nobody breathed. Alessandro whispered. Who are you? The pause. The man your father trusted before he died. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. You're dead. The voice gave a quiet laugh. That's what your uncle wanted everyone to believe. The room froze. Elena looked at Alessandro. Matteo stepped closer. And then the voice said something that changed everything. Alessandro, your father didn't leave you an empire. The pause. He left you a warning. Thunder shook the windows. Because the man who killed him, another pause, is sitting in your house right now. Everyone looked around. Alessandro's heart sank. Because the voice was not accusing someone outside. It was accusing someone inside. Someone standing among them. Someone close. Someone who had been there all along. The line went dead. Alessandro slowly lowered the phone. Nobody spoke. Then he said, nobody leaves this house. His guards immediately locked every entrance. Because now this was no longer about discovering the truth. It was about survival. And the person who knew the most might be the person who had the most to hide. The sound of the locks clicking echoed through the mansion. One by one. Every entrance. Every exit. Every possible escape route. Alessandro Vieri stood in the center of the room, completely still. That was what terrified people the most about him. Not his anger. Not his threats. His silence. Because when Alessandro became quiet, it meant his mind was moving faster than everyone else's. He was no longer thinking like a man preparing for a wedding. He was thinking like a man preparing for war. The woman he was supposed to marry was standing only a few feet away. The man who had protected him for years was standing beside him. The mother who raised him was sitting behind him. And yet, somehow, one of them might have been connected to the destruction of everything he built. Nobody leaves. His voice was calm. Too calm. Matteo nodded and moved toward the guards. Search every room. Check every vehicle. Nobody enters or exits without Alessandro's approval. The guards moved instantly. Because everyone in that house understood one thing. Something had changed. The wedding was no longer an event. It was a battlefield. Elena watched Alessandro carefully. She saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. Not rage. Not suspicion. Because the worst part was not discovering an enemy. Alessandro knew how to deal with enemies. The worst part was realizing he had trusted the wrong people. She stepped closer. Alessandro. He didn't look at her. Don't. The single word stopped her. Not now. Her expression fell slightly. I know what you're thinking. Finally, he looked at her. Do you? The question was colder than any accusation. Do you know what I'm thinking, Elena? She remained silent. Because I don't even know what I'm thinking. He walked toward the large window overlooking the estate. For years, I believed I knew exactly who was against me. His reflections stared back at him. I knew the families trying to destroy me. I knew the men who wanted my position. I knew the enemies I had to fight. His jaw tightened. But I never considered the possibility that someone was standing beside me pretending to protect me. The words landed heavily. Elena lowered her eyes. Because she understood. She had secrets. Even if they were not the secrets Alessandro feared. And now, every secret looked like betrayal. Tell me something. Alessandro turned around. Why did your father really agree to this wedding? Elena hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Alessandro noticed. What are you not telling me? She swallowed. My father was afraid. Of what? Of losing everything. Alessandro stared at her. Your father controls half the eastern ports. Controlled. The correction was quiet. My family has been losing power for years. She looked away. The Moretti family was desperate. And you think marrying me fixes that? No. Her answer surprised him. No. Elena looked directly at him. I think someone convinced my father that marrying me to you would save both families. And who convinced him? She didn't answer immediately. Alessandro's expression hardened. Elena. It was your uncle. The room went silent. Another piece. Another crack in the foundation. Matteo, who had just returned, stopped at the doorway. Say that again. Elena looked at him. Your uncle approached my father months before the engagement was announced. Alessandro slowly turned. What did he offer? Protection. A bitter smile crossed Elena's face. Power. She paused. And a promise that after the wedding, the Vieri Empire would belong to people who understood how to run it. Nobody spoke. Because now the picture was becoming clearer. The wedding was never about joining families. It was about transferring power. Alessandro had not been invited into an alliance. He had been invited into a trap. Then Matteo's phone vibrated. He checked the message. His face changed. Alessandro immediately noticed. What? Matteo looked up. We found something. Where? The wedding venue. Alessandro walked toward him. What about it? Matteo hesitated. There was a second security system installed. By who? Matteo looked at Elena. Your father. Elena immediately shook her head. No. He did. I swear he didn't. Matteo handed Alessandro the tablet. The screen showed security footage. A man entering the wedding venue late at night. His face was hidden. But his movements were familiar. Very familiar. Alessandro watched. The man walked through the empty ballroom. Checked cameras. Opened hidden panels. Placed something behind the stage. Then turned toward the camera. For a brief second, his face appeared. Alessandro froze. Because he knew that face. Everyone did. It was impossible. No. His voice was barely audible. Matteo looked at him. You know him? Alessandro didn't answer. Because the man on the screen was someone who had attended his father's funeral. Someone who had stood beside him when he inherited the empire. Someone whose loyalty had never been questioned. His father's oldest friend. He's been dead for 10 years. Nobody moved. The footage continued. The man looked directly into the camera. And smiled. Then the screen went black. A message appeared. 3 words. Ask your mother. The room changed instantly. Every eye turned toward Lucia. Alessandro's mother. She looked frozen. Not surprised. Not confused. Afraid. And that fear told Alessandro everything. Mother. She slowly looked up. How long? Her lips trembled. Alessandro. How long have you known? Tears formed in her eyes. Since the beginning. The silence that followed was unbearable. Matteo stepped back. Elena covered her mouth. Alessandro simply stared. His own mother. The woman who raised him. The woman who protected him. The woman he believed was the only person in the world who would never lie to him. You knew. His voice cracked slightly. Lucia stood. I was trying to protect you. By lying to me? By keeping you alive. The answer stopped him. Because there was no fear in her voice. Only exhaustion. What happened the night my father died? Lucia looked toward the window. And for the first time in years, she told the truth. Your father discovered the betrayal before anyone else. Alessandro listened. He knew someone close to him was planning to take everything. Who? Lucia looked at him. Then at Elena. Then at Matteo. And whispered. The person who ordered your father's death. The pause. Is not the person you think. The lights suddenly went out. Every screen in the mansion turned black. The security system failed. And somewhere in the darkness, a voice came through the speakers. A voice Alessandro had never forgotten. His father's voice. Alessandro. Everyone froze. Your mother is telling you the truth. The pause. But she is not telling you everything. The lights flickered. The voice continued. The person who betrayed me. Another pause. Is the person you are about to marry. Elena's face went pale. Alessandro turned slowly toward her. The woman he was supposed to marry. The woman he had just defended. The The woman he thought might understand him better than anyone. She whispered, "Alessandro." But he stepped back. Because now he didn't know what was real anymore. And the wedding that was supposed to unite two families might have been designed to destroy him from the beginning. The darkness inside the mansion felt heavier than the night outside. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because sometimes silence was louder than any confession. Alessandro Vieri stared at Elena. The woman who was supposed to stand beside him in front of hundreds of guests in less than 48 hours. The woman who was supposed to become his family. Now she stood there as a question mark. A possible enemy. A possible victim. And Alessandro hated that he couldn't tell the difference. For the first time in years, he had no clear target. No obvious enemy. No simple answer. Only doubt. And doubt was dangerous. Especially for a man like him. Everybody out. The order was sudden. Matteo looked at him. "Alessandro. I said everybody out." His voice carried through the room. The guards immediately moved. Lucia opened her mouth to speak. But Alessandro stopped her with a look. "Not you." She froze. "You stay." Everyone slowly left the room. The massive doors closed, leaving only 3 people inside. Alessandro, his mother, and Elena. The 3 people connected to the truth. The 3 people who could either save him or destroy him. The emergency lights flickered on, casting a cold glow across the room. Alessandro walked toward the table. He placed the tablet down. The video was still frozen. The image of the man who was supposed to be dead remained on the screen. "Start talking." Elena looked at him. "I don't know what you want me to say." "The truth. I have been telling you the truth." "No." His voice sharpened. "You've been telling me pieces." That hurt her. Because she knew he was right. Alessandro looked at his mother. "And you?" Lucia lowered her eyes. "You knew about my father's investigation." "Yes." "You knew he was in danger." "Yes." "You knew someone wanted him dead." The pause. "Yes." The answers were calm. Too calm. Alessandro felt something break inside. "Then why didn't you tell me?" Lucia looked at him. "Because you were 22 years old." "I was old enough." "No." Her voice became emotional. "You were angry enough to get yourself killed." The room went silent. Lucia stepped closer. "Your father knew you. Better than anyone. He knew that if you discovered the truth too soon, you wouldn't think. You would attack. And the person who wanted him dead was waiting for that." Alessandro looked away. Because the worst part was, she was right. His entire life had been controlled by one emotion. Revenge. Lucia continued. "Your father didn't leave because he trusted nobody. He left because he trusted you." Alessandro looked back. "What does that mean?" She walked toward an old cabinet near the wall, opened it, and removed a small black box. Alessandro stared. "I've had this for 10 years. His expression changed. "Why?" "Because your father told me never to open it unless the wedding happened." The room froze. "Unless the wedding happened?" Lucia nodded. "He said the wedding would force the enemy to reveal themselves." Alessandro looked at Elena. The realization hit him. The wedding wasn't the trap. The wedding was the bait. Someone had planned this. Someone had known that bringing everyone together would expose the traitor. Lucia placed the box on the table. "He wanted you to have this before you married." Alessandro opened it slowly. Inside was an old photograph. A photograph of his father. His uncle. A younger Lucia. And another man. The same man from the security footage. But this time, Alessandro noticed something. The man wasn't standing beside his father. He was standing behind him. Watching. Then Alessandro saw the date. 10 years before his father's death. And on the back of the photograph were 5 words. "Trust nobody at the table." A cold feeling moved through him. "The table." Elena whispered. "The wedding table." Alessandro looked at her. "Explain." She slowly looked up. "How long?" Her lips trembled. "Alessandro. How long have you known?" Tears formed in her eyes. "Since the beginning." The silence that followed was unbearable. Matteo stepped back. Elena covered her mouth. Alessandro simply stared. His own mother. The woman who raised him. The woman who protected him. The woman he believed was the only person in the world who would never lie to him. You knew. His voice cracked slightly. Lucia stood. I was trying to protect you. By lying to me? By keeping you alive. The answer stopped him. Because there was no fear in her voice. Only exhaustion. What happened the night my father died? Lucia looked toward the window. And for the first time in years, she told the truth. Your father discovered the betrayal before anyone else. Alessandro listened. He knew someone close to him was planning to take everything. Who? Lucia looked at him. Then at Elena. Then at Matteo. And whispered. The person who ordered your father's death. The pause. Is not the person you think. The lights suddenly went out. Every screen in the mansion turned black. The security system failed. And somewhere in the darkness, a voice came through the speakers. A voice Alessandro had never forgotten. His father's voice. Alessandro. Everyone froze. Your mother is telling you the truth. The pause. But she is not telling you everything. The lights flickered. The voice continued. The person who betrayed me. Another pause. Is the person you are about to marry. Elena's face went pale. Alessandro turned slowly toward her. The woman he was supposed to marry. The woman he had just defended. The woman he thought might understand him better than anyone. She whispered, Alessandro. But he stepped back. Because now he didn't know what was real anymore. And the wedding that was supposed to unite two families might have been designed to destroy him from the beginning. The darkness inside the mansion felt heavier than the night outside. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because sometimes silence was louder than any confession. Alessandro Vieri stared at Elena. The woman who was supposed to stand beside him in front of hundreds of guests in less than 48 hours. The woman who was supposed to become his family. Now she stood there as a question mark. A possible enemy. A possible victim. And Alessandro hated that he couldn't tell the difference. For the first time in years, he had no clear target. No obvious enemy. No simple answer. Only doubt. And doubt was dangerous. Especially for a man like him. Everybody out. The order was sudden. Matteo looked at him. Alessandro. I said everybody out. His voice carried through the room. The guards immediately moved. Lucia opened her mouth to speak. But Alessandro stopped her with a look. Not you. She froze. You stay. Everyone slowly left the room. The massive doors closed, leaving only 3 people inside. Alessandro, his mother, and Elena. The 3 people connected to the truth. The 3 people who could either save him or destroy him. The emergency lights flickered on, casting a cold glow across the room. Alessandro walked toward the table. He placed the tablet down. The video was still frozen. The image of the man who was supposed to be dead remained on the screen. Start talking. Elena looked at him. I don't know what you want me to say. The truth. I have been telling you the truth. No. His voice sharpened. You've been telling me pieces. That hurt her. Because she knew he was right. Alessandro looked at his mother. And you? Lucia lowered her eyes. You knew about my father's investigation. Yes. You knew he was in danger. Yes. You knew someone wanted him dead. The pause. Yes. The answers were calm. Too calm. Alessandro felt something break inside. Then why didn't you tell me? Lucia looked at him. Because you were 22 years old. I was old enough. No. Her voice became emotional. You were angry enough to get yourself killed. The room went silent. Lucia stepped closer. Your father knew you. Better than anyone. He knew that if you discovered the truth too soon, you wouldn't think. You would attack. And the person who wanted him dead was waiting for that. Alessandro looked away. Because the worst part was, she was right. His entire life had been controlled by one emotion. Revenge. Lucia continued. Your father didn't leave because he trusted nobody. He left because he trusted you. Alessandro looked back. What does that mean? She walked toward an old cabinet near the wall, opened it, and removed a small black box. Alessandro stared. I've had this for 10 years. His expression changed. Why? Because your father told me never to open it unless the wedding happened. The room froze. Unless the wedding happened? Lucia nodded. He said the wedding would force the enemy to reveal themselves. Alessandro looked at Elena. The realization hit him. The wedding wasn't the trap. The wedding was the bait. Someone had planned this. Someone had known that bringing everyone together would expose the traitor. Lucia placed the box on the table. He wanted you to have this before you married. Alessandro opened it slowly. Inside was an old photograph. A photograph of his father, his uncle, a younger Lucia, and another man, the same man from the security footage. But this time, Alessandro noticed something. The man wasn't standing beside his father. He was standing behind him, watching. Then Alessandro saw the date, 10 years before his father's death. And on the back of the photograph were 5 words. Trust nobody at the table. A cold feeling moved through him. The table. Elena whispered. The wedding table. Alessandro looked at her. Explain. Do you believe the woman you love? Another pause. Or do you believe the evidence? The speakers went silent, and for the first time, Alessandro Vieri had to face the one enemy he could not defeat with money, power, or violence. The possibility that his heart had chosen the wrong person. The necklace sat in Lucia Vieri's palm. A small piece of silver. A simple object. But inside that basement, it carried the weight of 10 years of lies. Alessandro stared at it. He didn't blink. He didn't move. Because he knew that necklace. He had seen it in the only photograph he had of the night his father died. A photograph that had haunted him for years. The night everything changed. The night his family broke apart. The night his father never came home. And now that same necklace was connected to Elena. The woman standing in front of him. The woman who was supposed to become his wife. Tell me. His voice was quiet, but everyone in the room felt the danger behind it. Tell me why this was there. Elena looked at the necklace. Then at Alessandro. Her eyes filled with pain. Because I was there. The words landed like a weapon. Lucia closed her eyes. Alessandro went completely still. You were there? Elena nodded slowly. But not for the reason you think. Alessandro laughed once. A cold, empty sound. Everyone says that. He stepped closer. Everyone who hides something says they have an explanation. Alessandro, listen to me. No. His voice rose. Do you know what I have spent 10 years doing? Elena didn't answer. I destroyed enemies. I built an empire. I trusted nobody. His eyes locked onto hers. And then you came into my life. The pause. I thought you were the one person who wasn't part of this. Elena swallowed. I wanted to tell you. When? Her eyes lowered. After the wedding. That answer hurt him more than anything else. After the wedding? She nodded. My father made me promise. Your father? Alessandro's expression hardened. Your father knew? Elena looked away. Yes. The room became silent again. Explain. Elena took a deep breath. The night your father died, my father was meeting with him. Why? Because your father had discovered the betrayal. Alessandro listened. The person planning to destroy your family wasn't outside. It was someone inside. She looked at Lucia. Your father believed your uncle was involved. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. But he didn't have proof. Elena continued. My father was supposed to help him gather evidence. Then what happened? Her voice became softer. My father arrived too late. She touched the necklace. This belonged to my mother. Alessandro froze. Your mother? Elena nodded. She was there too. The truth started forming. A truth nobody wanted. The person who attacked your father wasn't alone. There were 2 people. One betrayed him. And one tried to save him. Alessandro stared. Who? Elena looked at him. My mother. Silence. My mother tried to help your father escape. She was wearing this necklace. Alessandro looked at the necklace again. Then why was it at the scene? Because she died there. The words were quiet, but devastating. Elena looked down. My mother died trying to save your father. Nobody spoke, because suddenly the evidence had a different meaning. The necklace was not proof of betrayal. It was proof of sacrifice. Alessandro looked at Lucia. Did you know? Lucia nodded slowly. Yes. His jaw tightened. You knew everything. I knew part of it. Why didn't you tell me? Because your father made me promise. Alessandro looked away. Another promise. Lucia stepped closer. He told me something before he died. What? She looked at him. He said, if Alessandro learns the truth too early, he will become exactly what our enemies want him to become. Alessandro closed his eyes. Because he understood. His father wasn't protecting him from enemies. He was protecting him from himself. Then the basement lights flickered. Everyone turned. A figure appeared on the security monitor. Walking through the mansion. Slowly. Confidently. Alessandro looked at the screen. And his blood turned cold. Because the man walking through his home was the same man from the video. The man who was supposed to be dead. The impossible man. Matteo whispered. Alessandro grabbed the communication device. Lock the house. The guard responded. Already tried. Problem? The pause. The system isn't responding. Alessandro understood. Someone had control. The voice from the speakers returned. You always were your father's son. Alessandro stared at the monitor. Show yourself. A laugh. You don't remember me. The man walked closer to the camera. Then the screen showed his face. And Alessandro recognized him. Not from the funeral. Not from the past. From recently. Because he had seen him. At the wedding planning meetings. At the business negotiations. Helping arrange everything. The wedding planner. The man behind the entire event. The man everyone trusted. You. The man smiled. Finally. Elena looked shocked. He was the one organizing the wedding. The man nodded. Because I needed everyone in one place. Alessandro's hands tightened. Why? The man smiled. Because your father was smarter than all of us. The pause. He knew one day you would discover the truth. The man walked closer to the camera. And he knew the only way to expose everyone was to recreate the night he died. Alessandro understood. The wedding wasn't a trap. It was a test. A final move from a dead man. The wedding would gather every person involved. Every betrayer. Every survivor. Every secret. The man continued. Your uncle wanted your empire. Your bride's father wanted your ports. Others wanted your money. But I wanted something else. Alessandro stared. What? To prove your father was right. The pause. He believed you could become better than him. The words hit harder than expected. Your father built an empire through fear. The man continued. But he knew fear eventually creates betrayal. He wanted you to build something different. Alessandro looked at Elena. At his mother. At the evidence. Everything finally connected. The wedding had not been designed to destroy him. It had been designed to reveal who deserved to stand beside him. The man on the screen spoke again. The final choice is yours, Alessandro. The old way. Trust nobody. Destroy everyone. Or the new way. Trust the people who proved their loyalty. The screen went black. The mansion became silent. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Alessandro walked toward Elena. She looked afraid. Not of him. Of losing him. I should hate you. Her eyes filled. I know. You lied. I know. You kept secrets. I know. The pause. But you also protected me. Elena looked at him. I tried. Alessandro reached into his pocket. The wedding ring was still there. The ring he had planned to give her. Everyone thought the wedding was over. Everyone thought he would cancel it. But Alessandro looked at Elena and realized something. The wedding was never the problem. The people behind it were. He took her hand. The wedding is cancelled. Elena's face fell. Then he continued. But not because of you. The pause. Because I refuse to let anyone else decide my future. She stared at him. So what happens now? Alessandro looked around the room. At the empire. At the secrets. At the people who remained. Now. He placed the ring in her hand. We start over. Months later, the city knew a different Alessandro Vieri. The man who once ruled through fear began ruling through loyalty. The families who betrayed him disappeared from power. The empire became stronger. Not because people feared him. Because people believed in him. And Elena stood beside him. Not as a political arrangement. Not as an alliance. As his equal. The woman who carried a secret for years to protect him. The woman who walked into his life as a mystery. And stayed as the only person he could truly trust. On their wedding day, there were no hidden cameras. No secret plans. No enemies sitting at the table. Only the people who had earned their place. As Alessandro looked at Elena standing across from him, he remembered the moment he almost lost everything. Not because someone attacked his empire, but because he almost destroyed the one person who was trying to save him. And that was the lesson he never forgot. Power can build an empire. Money can buy loyalty. Fear can control people. But trust is what keeps everything standing. If you enjoyed Alessandro and Elena's journey, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more powerful mafia romance stories filled with betrayal, loyalty, revenge, and unexpected twists. Now tell me in the comment box. What was your favorite moment of this story? The wedding betrayal reveal, Elena's secret sacrifice, or Alessandro discovering who was truly behind everything? Share this story with someone who loves intense emotional dramas, and I'll see you in the next story.